Beartrap Creek Bank Restoration Project ending in N03673, Bay City Creek Bank Restoration ending in 03680, and Little Beartrap Creek Bank Restoration Project ending in 03679. The Department of Natural Resources has set this hearing on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026 at 12 p.m. remotely via Zoom to receive input on the applications of Enbridge Energy for 4 individual permits for stream bank erosion control on the beds of unnamed tributary to Brunsweiler, Beartrap Creek, Bay City Creek, and Little Beartrap Creek. Unnamed tributary to Brunsweiler project is located in the town of Marengo, and the other projects are located in the town of Jingles, Ashland County. The hearing will be held until 3 p.m. Central Time or until the last verbal comments are received, whichever occurs first. The notice of this hearing was published on April 6, 2026 on the department's website and on April 9th, 2026 in the Ashland Daily Press. All the notice procedures of the statutes and administrative rules have been complied with. Today's hearing is not a contested case hearing. The hearing today is non-adversarial in nature and informational only. This hearing is designed to provide you an opportunity to present public input and comments on the proposed stream bank erosion control projects. Speakers will not be subject to cross-examination. Following a brief presentation by the applicant, hearing staff will call on those who have raised their hand to provide a comment. From this record, a summary of comments will be prepared by the department for inclusion in the findings of fact in the permit decisions. Final permit decisions may be appealed, and those directions will be provided in the permit decision documents. Any person may submit written comments by emailing macaulay.haller@wisconsin.gov, by leaving a voice message at 608-347-0240, or writing to Macaulay Haller, 101 South Webster Street, Madison, Wisconsin, 53707-7921 by mail. Comments should include the docket number or applicant name and should relate to whether the project meets the legal standards listed in the public notices. Comments must be submitted or postmarked no later than 10 days after the hearing date, which is May 2nd, 2026. They will receive the same weight and effect as all comments submitted into the record of today's hearing. As a reminder, this public hearing is informational only, intended for the public to provide an opportunity to present input and comments on the proposed stream bank erosion control projects. Speakers will not be subject to cross-examination. Before we begin to hear from you, there are some ground rules for the hearing that are important for everyone to know. First, you may have joined this hearing by phone, Zoom website, Zoom link, or Zoom app. You are all muted and will remain so during the whole hearing unless you request to speak and provide a comment. This is so everyone in the hearing will be able to focus their attention on the person who is giving us their comments. We will also want a clear recording of comments without interruption. We are not using video for this hearing. For those who have joined via Zoom, whether that be on the website link or through the Zoom app, if you want to speak, please raise your hand. You do this by clicking the button at the bottom of the participants window labeled React, and then raise hand. You can raise your hand at any time, and when it comes to the public comment section of the hearing staff will identify people to speak in the order that they raise their hand. If you are on the phone, you cannot raise your hand. Time permitting, once all people who digitally raise their hands have provided comment, hearing staff will ask each person phoning in if they wish to comment. Depending on the number of people raising their hands to provide a comment, hearing staff may post to the chat the names of the next people in line to provide comment. When it is your turn to speak, hearing staff will call you out by the identification you provided when you logged in or by your phone number. Hearing staff will request you unmute your microphone, and you will need to click on a pop-up confirming you would like to be unmuted. After providing your first name, last name, and address, you can provide your comment. This process is not intended to make it difficult for you to offer your statements. However, it provides us an opportunity to record your comments so that we can review your statement if needed in the course of making our final decision on the proposals. Please be courteous to everyone on the call. Any inappropriate or vulgar language, and I will mute your mic and move on to the next speaker. Hearing staff may also remove you from the hearing, and you will be unable to rejoin. As a courtesy to everyone who has come to offer their comments, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Hearing staff member Aaron Cox will react with the number 1 on the screen to let speakers know they have 1 minute remaining. Aaron will then react with a flag on the screen when your 3 minutes are up. When hearing staff inform you your time is up, please wrap up what you're saying. Hearing staff will then mute your mic and call on the next person to speak. Hearing attendees should not use reactions or emojis when people are speaking to limit confusion. If you have more lengthy comments or if time runs out at 3 p.m. and there are still additional people who would like to speak, we invite you to please submit comments in writing. We'll be accepting written comments until May 2nd, 2026. At this time, representatives for the applicant will give a brief presentation introducing the proposed project. Joe, I will make you a co-host in 1 moment. Okay, representatives for Enbridge, I believe I made you co-host and you should be able to share your screen.
All right, thank you. Can you all hear me, or can you hear me, Macaulay?
I can hear you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for attending this session. My name is Joe McGaver with Enbridge Environment Projects. I'll share my screen and go through a presentation here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, as was stated, the individual permit applications are for Bay City Creek, which are shown here on the figure. Bay City Creek, Little Beartrap Creek, Beartrap Creek, and then unnamed Trib to Brunsweiler. I'll go through these in this order. Kyle Owens. Sorry about that. Project purpose and need. These sites were visited by Lake Superior Consulting, who identified existing, currently occurring erosion to the banks at all 4 locations. The project is to install the installation of erosion control measures, which will stabilize the stream banks and prevent continued erosion at these locations, helping to prevent future erosion resulting in lower downstream sediment transport. The site-specific restoration plans, which we'll show a little bit in the following slides, include installation of stabilization materials below the ordinary high water mark at each location. The representative landowners and Enbridge are co-applicants and will be co-permittees. Bay City Creek is the first one to the north. You can see the location here in existing power line location. You can see on the photo on the left is Bay City Creek as it appeared at the time of review. You can see the erosion on the banks and some other erosion in the uplands coming into the stream into the water body. On the right side, you can see the erosion control figure or visual showing the willow stakes, riprap, core matting for stabilization, brush layering, erosion control blanket, and crushed materials that are placed in uplands but not in the water body itself. Next up is Little Beartrap Creek. You can see the location here. Again, we have figures on the left. It shows Little Beartrap Creek as it existed prior. Then you can see the restoration plans, which is using root wads and also grading and stabilization to restore to the stream bank and prevent erosion. Next up is Beartrap Creek. Again, the location is shown here. Photo on the left shows the creek from a photograph during when it was analyzed. You can see the erosions on the banks, and on the right again we're looking at willow sticks, riprap, core matting, brush layering, silt fence, and root wads to stabilize the bank and reduce erosion in the future. Unnamed trib to Brunsweiler. You can see the location here. Photo on the left that shows the past relatively current or past during the time analysis. Photograph showing the erosion condition of the river or the water body at the time of the photograph. And on the right is the restoration figure showing the willow stakes, core matting, brush layering, and silt fence. Each proposed stream bank restoration plan has been engineered by Lake Superior Consulting. Plans include the use of timber-based biostabilization methods as well as limited site-specific use of riprap as shown on the previous figures. Thank you for allowing me to share this description of the project today.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the public comment section of the hearing. So hearing staff will call on you, those whose hands are raised one at a time, and the hearing staff will unmute you. Again, you will be asked to accept the unmuting of your mic. And once you are unmuted, please state your full name and address prior to providing your comment.
Good afternoon. This is Erin Cox with the Wisconsin DNR. Thank you so much for participating today. The first person that I see with a hand raised is Susan Beatilia. And Ashley, please, Ashley with We Can, you'll be up next after Susan. Let me just try to unmute you, Susan, or invite you to unmute.
Hello? Do you hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay, my name is Susan Beatola. I am retired registered nurse. I previously worked for the Ashland County Health Department. And the first thing that I started when I started as a public health nurse and when I worked in OB is the warning about the lead and the other heavy metals in the fish. And our fish are not safe to eat or safe to eat supposedly in a limited amount. And my first reaction to this hearing is that we should be looking at the whole picture, and by looking at these isolated places, it gives a false impression that the water can be kept safe when there is runoff created by a pipeline that's not necessary. The only safe solution is to stop running crude oil and diluent through line 5. and prevent the release of more heavy metals into the water table. The pipeline, the whole pipeline, despite the reroute and the idea of having a tunnel under the Mackinac Straits, ignores the fact that the over 70-year-old pipeline was built to last for 50 years, and it's way past that date. And what about the erosion across the entire Line 5 route? Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Ashley, it looks like you are up next, and Gracie, please be advised you'll be up after Ashley. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ashley Guardado, and I work with the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, and I am here today to urge the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to deny the 4 waterway permits Enbridge has requested for the Line 5 reroute in Ashland County. These permits would authorize permanent stream bank stabilization structures on waterway beds, and these actions would directly alter and jeopardize these waterways, as well as the pristine ecosystems that depend on them. Approving these permits would also enable construction activities that pose long-term risks to water quality, habitat, and the broader watershed. As we've just heard from Susan just before me, this pipeline is also already existing well past its engineered lifespan. And I want to be clear that any impacts to these waterways directly affect the Great Lakes, which hold 20% of the world's surface fresh water and also provide drinking water to more than 40 million people. So I urge you to consider what it really means to jeopardize these waterways and the ecosystems at both a local and a global level, be it encroaching on the tribal sovereignty and the rights of indigenous nations that are within this territory, to exacerbating the climate crisis and deepening our dependence on fossil fuels that move us only further away from the just transition that Wisconsin, the United States, and the world very urgently need. So given these concerns and your responsibility to evaluate this application under Wisconsin law, I urge the department to reconsider the interconnected impacts of this project and to act in the name of public interests that are represented here today by denying these permits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Next will be Gracie, and Skylar Harris, please be advised you'll be up after Gracie.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our public comment today. I'm very concerned about the permits regarding the Tributary, Beartrap Creek, Little Beartrap Creek, and the Bay City Creek. Once construction begins on these waterways, I worry about the ecological anomalies that may surface relating to the tribe's wild rice growth, as well as physical anomalies in deer, elk, and other animals that rely on these waterways. I'm requesting that the DNR does not permit construction on these waterways. Enbridge Energy does not own this land. They have spilled oil in the Kalamazoo River in Jefferson County, Wisconsin, and they have breached freshwater aquifers. I do not trust them with these creeks. The waterways that will be operated on flow into the reservation and further into the Lake Superior watershed, and an oil spill will devastate the tribe and everyone that relies on the Great Lakes for clean drinking water. Also, this will violate, if we have an oil spill, this will violate our Treaty of 1855, which states that we will never again face forced removal from our homelands. We cannot stay on our homelands if we have a devastating oil spill. I worry about these permits being hastily signed, and that we will not actually have proper bank stabilization if construction is done swiftly but not safely. I worry about this being very hastily done. The flooding that we've had these last few weeks here in Wisconsin has proven that proper bank stabilization is vital, and that Mother Nature decides once and for all what happens to our infrastructure. Therefore, these permits must not be given hastily. We have a bad track record with Enbridge's infrastructure, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of those who actually rely on this water. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gracie. Thank you. Up next, I'd like to invite Skylar Harris, and Jadine, please be advised that you'll be up next after Skylar.
Hi, my name is Skylar Harris, and I'll start my comments. Good afternoon. My name is Skylar Harris, and I'm here today to provide comments on behalf of Midwest Environmental Advocates, otherwise known as MEA. MEA and several other organizations will be submitting extensive written comments on the legal and substantive deficiencies of the 4 permits at issue in today's hearing. Instead of focusing on those issues, I want to focus my comments today on the long-term implications for DNR's interpretation of Wisconsin's public trust doctrine that would stem from the grant of these permits to Enbridge Energy. Article 9 of Wisconsin's Constitution, otherwise known as the Public Trust Doctrine, guarantees that the navigable waters of the state will be forever free for the public. Because the Public Trust Doctrine protects the public's rights to use and enjoy navigable waters, any construction within navigable waters must be subordinate to those constitutional rights. Riparian ownership language in Section 3012 of the Wisconsin statutes was created in 1949 pursuant to the Public Trust Doctrine to give landowners the ability to live along navigable waters and engage in limited construction activity that would improve navigation or protect the property from erosion and other hazards. Because the legislature was trying to limit the types of construction that could occur in navigable waters, non-riparians were explicitly excluded from permit eligibility. Enbridge has filed these applications for project permits as a non-riparian, claiming that easement and co-applicant agreements with landowners are sufficient to get around the clear statutory prohibition against construction by non-riparians. DNR has not only supported Enbridge's claim in the context of the permit for the Line 5 reroute, but has also made the tentative determination that it will grant the permits at issue in today's hearing. To grant these permits to a non-riparian would be a blatant violation of explicit statutory mandates and a violation of the public's constitutional right to use and enjoy Wisconsin's navigable waters. Furthermore, Enbridge and DNR's interpretation of statute would open Wisconsin's waterways to significant commercial development so long as those commercial actors could obtain co-applicant agreements from landowners. Such an expansion would detrimentally impact the public's ability to navigate and access the waterway, as well as its ability to fish and recreate. Significant commercial activity along the banks of navigable waters will also harm vegetative growth and flood flow capacity. Because DNR and Enbridge's interpretation of the riparian owner requirement blatantly subverts legislative intent and would detrimentally harm constitutionally protected rights in navigable waters, the interpretation cannot stand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Skylar. Up next, I have Jadine Sonoda, and Angela, please be advised you'll be up next after Jadine.
Hi, my name is Jadine Sonoda. Opportunity to comment today. If the DNR approves these 4 permits, it will jeopardize Wisconsin's waterways by allowing Enbridge to continue operating Line 5 and facilitating damaging construction work. I urge you to deny them. The projects Enbridge proposes are permanent stream bank stabilization structures, and the proposed reroute cannot be finished without them. Despite the necessity of these projects to the overall reroute, Enbridge has failed to secure the necessary property interests at the 4 proposed project locations to be eligible for the permits it has applied for. The proposed structures aren't for the use of the riparian owners because Enbridge will not build the structures unless the entire reroute is constructed. I also want to mention that while Enbridge has reapplied for work at these 4 sites, there are actually 53 locations where Enbridge is not the landowner, and therefore the same concern is raised that they're not eligible to receive permits. If these permits are approved, they will violate the rights of nearby riparians and the public and facilitate the continued operation of Line 5, putting the people, land, and waters of northern Wisconsin at risk for decades to come. In addition to the local impacts, everyone is impacted by the climate crisis, and Line 5 makes things worse every day it operates. Line 5's upstream and downstream greenhouse gas emissions amount to about 87 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent annually, or nearly 19 million gasoline-powered passenger vehicles. The floods, heat waves, and other damaging weather we see with increasing frequency will only get worse if we don't stop major fossil fuel polluters like Enbridge from ruining our environment. It also appears that Enbridge has mischaracterized the proposed reroute as a solution to their illegal trespass on the Bad River Reservation, when the Bad River Band has repeatedly made it clear that they oppose the reroute project in the Bad River watershed. These projects threaten tribal sovereignty and treaty rights, and these concerns must be taken seriously. We also saw the consequences of Enbridge's construction with the Line 3 project in Minnesota. From devastating and unfixable aquifer breaches to frackouts during horizontal directional drilling, the risk cannot be overstated. Enbridge plans to use the same techniques with the Line 5 reroute project, and these permits facilitate the harm that may come with that construction. Today is Earth Day, and the spotlight is on the DNR to protect the rights of Wisconsinites and the well-being of the lands and waters that are at risk, but the impacts of permitting these projects will have far-reaching consequences every day of the year. I urge you to deny these permits. Thanks.
Thank you, Jadine. Understood. Thank you. Angela, I'd like to invite you to speak next. And if there's anyone else who wishes to speak, I don't see any hands up after Angela. Please feel free to still raise your hand if you would like to be called on.
I'm Angela Wisey, Ojibwe, Oneida, French Canadian, and a bunch of other stuff. But I'm here to stand up for the water and stand with Bad River, as it is so vital, so important. And the decision that you have in your hands is so vital to all future generations, all generations, and like 40 million people downriver. Drinking water, your drinking water is important to protect, and your children's future of sustainable, clean drinking water is very important to protect. It's in all of our best interest and yours as well to secure our children's clean drinking water for future generations to come. Note that this corporation is a Canadian oil corporation, energy corporation, and we get all the risk and they get all the profits, suffering no risk. So why would we aid them in this? Also, construction is underway. Mind you, the clear cutting alone has already done damage, and the proposed and what are those? Excuse me. What are those called? Log jacks at the meander are failing miserably. Also, there's exposed pipeline on line 5 going through Bad River as we speak. Please note all of the destruction that has already happened on line 3 and all of the failures noted as well throughout their reputation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Angela. Next, I see a username PHAMM, and then I will be calling on Joe Bates next. Thank you.
Hello, this is Patricia Hamill, PM, and I'm an attorney in private practice here in Antigo, in the ceded territory. And I was confused about the purpose of this permit application. It looked like it was a stream crossing permit, but I believe stream crossings have already been permitted. So Enbridge is proposing to stabilize the stream banks on some of the streams that they've already proposed to cross. And the only reason that they're stabilizing the banks is that they're going to cross these streams using horizontal directional drilling or trenching. I don't think there's any blasting involved with these, but their own activities are going to be causing so much more erosion than what they're trying to fix here. And this is not their property. They shouldn't be allowed to request permits based on an easement because the public has rights to these waterways to use and enjoy them. And the Bad River tribe has rights to observe their own water standards, which they've already testified are going to be violated by the permits that DNR has issued. I'm a little concerned that I signed up for the line 5 notices through DNR and I never got any notice of this hearing. So I'm not sure how much public comment you really want, but I don't think they should be granted these permits. I think it violates Wisconsin law, it violates tribal sovereignty and the trust responsibility that state and federal governments should have to protect the water for all people and the members of the Bad River tribe in particular. So I will submit written comments. It was not clear at all to me what the purpose of the hearing was, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Joe Bates, you will be up next, and then Jennifer, you will go after Joe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I was trying to turn on my camera, but I see you disabled my camera. My name is Joe Bates. I'm a Bad River Tribal Elder, and I'm calling to give you my comment on the proposed 4 additional water crossings in the ceded territory. In approving these permits, the DNR would allow Enbridge, a foreign corporation, to jeopardize Wisconsin waterways by continuing to operate an outdated and hazardous oil pipeline and extending that pipeline across 41.1 miles of previously unaffected land. I urge you to deny these permits. Enbridge's Line 5 pipeline transports 22 million gallons of crude oil a day, along with natural gas liquids across 645 miles of countryside, and from Superior through the Bad River Reservation, illegally, I'll add, where it's operating, under the Straits of Mackinac and down to the refineries in Sarnia. Originally built in 1953, the Saging Pipeline has long outlived its usefulness, significantly deteriorated over the course of the last several decades, and proposes catastrophic risk to the neighboring farmland, pristine natural areas, valuable freshwater sources, including 400 rivers, streams, and wetlands. This Reroute also violates our Treaty of 1854. It guarantees us a permanent homeland. It also encapsulates the Bad River Reservation to where we will be required to ask Enbridge for permission to cross their pipeline for us to gather, hunt, and fish here in our ceded territories. I urge you to please deny permits to Enbridge. They need to be shut down. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Next will be Jennifer, and I don't see anyone else who has raised their hand after Jennifer. So if anyone wishes to speak, please feel free to raise your hand.
Bonjour, Jeba Nung Indigenous Cause, Jennifer Bully Indigo, Miss Kodesi and Dude, Mushkazibing and Dujaba. I just want to first thank Mr. Bates for his very informative comment. My name is Jennifer Bully. I am a Bad River Tribal member living, and I'm also a member of Lake Superior Not for Sale. I am here to submit comment to ask the DNR to deny all permits regarding Enbridge and its attempt to steal water illegally, pollute water illegally, trespass on reservation land illegally. We have multiple court hearings that have been ongoing. One just this morning in Michigan, where the Supreme Court has ruled that the case will stay in the state court. We're just hoping that the DNR will continue to listen to the people and not the money, so that we are able to save this water for future generations. We stand on the line for all of you, regardless of our political affiliation, our personal beliefs and morals, and we expect you to do the same. This water is finite, and Enbridge is an absolute threat to that and all of it. This is not the only threat that we have coming up against us. We have lots of other threats, and we need to shut Enbridge down so we can focus our efforts on protecting this lake forever. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you. Next, I will call on RJ. And again, if anyone wishes to still speak, please feel free to raise your hand.
Well, my name is RJ Clare. I've been a resident of Ashland County for most of the past 13 years. I just want to say a very big miigwech for everybody who's here today. It's lovely to hear your voices. We need to shut down Line 5. It's been operating illegally for 13 years. I recognize that this informational hearing is focused on a lot of technicalities because that seems to be where the DNR likes to put their focus. I'm deeply concerned about what we consider to be harm and what we don't consider to be harm. I'll start from the perspective of soil metabolism and then focus a little bit more on human rights. We're actively in a state of climate change. That means that any of our observations about the different pathways for succession in our forests that may have been reliable even, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, those aren't going to be the same. The jet stream is acting in a different way. Our precipitation patterns are different, and we're having more and more and more disruptions from a weather perspective. And now we want to go messing around with the hydrology. We're going messing around with the trees who have the wisdom of knowing how to be here and have been able to adapt. Why are we stressing the forests out even more? I recognize that that's more of a broad question, and this is focused on, a lot of specifics, but I think we're losing that perspective, and it's very important. Again and again and again and again, tribal members have been expressing to the rest of us that what's happening right now is an act of violence. The DNR is participating in enabling the violence of Enbridge. Who among you is willing to start breaking that pattern? Again, I know this is a technical hearing, but I think it's really, 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 really important and crucial that we are looking at this in a holistic way, because I would argue that from when we focus on the technical parts, that's a form of just dismissing the violence that is occurring. Thank you for your time. I highly encourage you to pass on everything that's been brought to you today, including the emotional bits, to all of your colleagues. And I hope that all of the precious, wonderful information that you are all able to hear today trickles down deeply into you, because it's really important. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Deb Martin, I saw that you had your hand raised, and I wanted to just call briefly on you and give you an opportunity to speak in case maybe you unraised your hand on accident. Did you want to speak, Deb?
Yes, thank you very much. Deb Martin, but I've been following what's happened to the Bad River tribe with it dangers us all. I may be in the middle of the state more than in the north, but I do believe what the Native people are saying. I do believe that we're all tied together, and from what's happened already, we know we cannot trust that they say this will be better. And to look at those diagrams of how you're going to change the riverbank, that does not make me feel more secure about the plan. One of the people said we trust how the land develops itself, and then you go in and mess with it. And what more do you stir up? We don't know. Yes, and again, the Canadian company gets all the benefit, and the residents of Wisconsin and beyond take all the risk. So please don't do this, especially right now that they're illegally where they are. Why would we start doing something else? Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. I have Audie up next, and then Melanie after Audie. Go ahead, Audie.
Hi, I'm Audie Volker. Yeah, I feel like I almost don't have a whole lot to add. I just can't kind of believe that we are allowing a company that has, continued to trespass to then, even look at giving them what they've already been attempting to steal, and been successfully stealing. Like, if any of us were to be doing that, like, we would be sitting in prison, not having this call. Like, it is just kind of wild to me that a foreign company can come in and just assert so much power, and that we're sitting here considering giving them more. I formerly I grew up in Southwest Michigan, and so I very clearly remember the 2010 Enbridge oil spill in the Kalamazoo River, which shut the river down from 2010 to somewhere in 2012, I believe. And they officially say it took 2 years to clear the river. That was the biggest oil spill in United States history, by the way. And it cost so much, it took so much, but officially they say it took 2 years to clean. My family, my friends still live in the area. It's, the soil, there's still so much in 2026 from a 2010 oil spill that the communities are dealing with. And our future generations don't need that. I just can't fathom spill in that area. I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting a little wordy, but I thank you so much for your time. We can't risk our water. We can't risk our land. We can't risk the future of, for our children and our children's children and all the next generations, just for some foreign company to make a ton of money. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Audie. Next, I will call on Melanie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Bonjour. Nimiwin and Kwewak. Nindizakazo. Nindizakaz. Mashkazizi Nunjaba. Nigazi Dodem. Hi. I'm Melanie Connors. I'm a Bad River tribal member. I am about a third of a mile away from the Bad River and about half a mile away from the Kakagan Sloughs. So I'd like to talk a little bit about environmental justice. So the EPA defines environmental justice as fair treatment and meaningful involvement of people regardless of color, race, national origin, or income with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental law, regulations, and policies. Fair treatments that no population, due to policy or economic disempowerment, is forced to bear the disproportionate share of negative human or health or environmental impacts of pollution or environmental consequences resulting from industrial, municipal, and commercial operations or the execution of federal, state, and local programs and policies. So my question is, why do Bad River tribal members have to bear the weight of Enbridge oil contamination or impact from the reroute, regardless of their planning and monitoring? Its Bad River tribal members will be directly impacted. Our Kakagan Sloughs is a Ramsar site. The Beartrap Creek and Little Beartrap Creek directly flow into that Kakagan Sloughs. I harvest rice every year to sustain my family. How are you allowing this? This is environmental racism. Enbridge cannot guarantee that it will not contaminate our waters, our Kakagan Sloughs. Even the bank reinforcements will cause damage environmentally and can actually impact our waterways and into our sacred harvest of Monoman. Enbridge can pay anyone to agree with their practices, including professionals like DNR. But who spoke, and none of them can guarantee this line is absolutely safe and will never contaminate our water, including water used to practice our federally recognized treaty rights in our ceded territories. Wisconsin DNR should be well aware of the value of ecosystem services from wetlands. We have always valued our wetlands in our area, where some of the valuable medicines we seek come from this area. Enbridge is not financially paying for any externalities of ecosystem services, such as loss of wetlands due to the firm building access roads and bank reinforcements. Enbridge does not understand or respect Bad River's connection with our land and water. The firm has a lot to learn yet. This project and reroute is environmental racism, period. The proposed reroute impacts us, Bad River tribal members, federally recognized treaty rights in our ceded territory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melanie. At this time, I see one phone number who has joined. It looks like that phone number ends in 7906. If you wish to speak, you may unmute at this time and give comment. If you do not wish to speak, that's okay. You can remain on mute. I'll just give you a few seconds.
Oh, hello. Hi, this is Steve from Madison, and I will be submitting comments, but I really question the private-public partnership with this project with Enbridge and the DNR. And I hope the DNR is standing up for the citizens, including tribal members of Wisconsin. And to me, this is a real concern when they're illegally trespassing for 13 years. And what is this? What's going on? Okay, I will submit comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, I don't see any other hands. I'll give it a few seconds. If anyone still wishes to speak, please feel free to raise your hand now, and I will call on you. I need to put myself on.
Okay. Earlier, at the beginning of this hearing, we shared that the hearing would be held until 3 p.m. Central Time or until the last verbal comments were received, whichever occurred first. So at this time, this is concluding our public informational hearing. I would again like to remind you that comments by voicemail, email, or US mail may be submitted to Macaulay Haller no later than May 2nd, 2026, and they will have the same weight and effect of verbal comments and statements that were given today at our hearing. Okay. All right. Jennifer, I see you do have your hand, so I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yes, hi. I just wanted us, because I believe there's a lot of very wonderful, brilliant people on the line, and I wanted us to close in a good way. And I'm just going to sing one verse of the water song. Nibe gezage igo Gimi gwechowe ni mi go. Gijowe ni mi go. Ooh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Department of Natural Resources for your attendance here today, this hearing is now closed.
Recording.